regarding.
will be.
I think you'll have another couple more on the voting thing. I see Melanie here. She's showing up.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it says.
And that's. Yep. Okay, so. We'll do those first. After the pledge of allegiance. No, that's all. Raise one position.
Beforehand,
Or five total.
5 per person, 15 minutes on it, if they're all speaking on the same topic.
They are.
So then it's gotta be 3 per person, if there's 5.
Call the meeting to order. The first piece of business is you'll notice that Carly and Kate aren't with us tonight. They are here telephonically, and so they'll be voting telephonically. Just didn't want you to think we forgot about them. So if you'll rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. May I have an approval of the minutes from the meeting held May 22nd and June 6th?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, starting with Mr. Alberti?
Aye. Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Persons wishing to address the board. The ones on topic will be during the topic, but I have 4 here and they're on the same topic, so it'll be 3 minutes a person. We'll start with Melanie Bliss.
I timed it for 5 minutes, so.
Oh, sorry, Melanie. And make sure you state your name and your
Yes,
address
please.
for us.
My name is Melanie Bliss. I live at 2021 South First Avenue for the last 32 years. I have served on the Sioux Falls School Board and very seriously approached the subject of voting for school board, especially when only 3.6% of us did vote. On the Friday prior to June 6th, I came to IPC to vote early and to pick up an absentee ballot for my neighbor who had just been dismissed from the hospital. The voting place was hard to find. There was no U.S. flag anywhere, no sample ballot hung up to read, and the door was not marked when it was open. The ballots in the ballot box were visibly hanging out of the slot. I announced it to the single person seated at the voting table. There were 8 to 9 ballots hanging out when I stuffed my own in, and the envelope was hanging there by a corner. This is not proper procedure in the United States of America to leave a ballot hanging there by a corner. I asked for an absentee ballot request form for my neighbor. On Monday, the day prior to the election, I returned to the same spot and the door to the voting area was locked. And I could see a small sign marked "Vote Here" on the locked door. I asked to please find someone to open the voting area. I waited from 12 to 12:15 while the door was locked. Then I gave the signed absentee ballot and state identification card, and that person gave me the ballot but did not request my signature as a messenger, and I did explain that that was to happen. I took the ballot back to my neighbor and returned to the IPC early voting place with a sealed absentee ballot. I again confronted a locked door. I waited from 12:50 to 1 p.m. while the door was locked on Monday. This is the United States of America, and I believe an early voting place should be open and not locked. I also believe that a ballot box should be immediately tended when it is overflowing. The right to vote is sacred to all citizens. The voting place should be adequately staffed with fully trained personnel. There should be more than one person fully authorized to work at the early polling place and 2 persons at all times, and the door unlocked. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. Scott Hirschman?
Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I had some similar concerns that Melanie had. I'd heard a lot of those before her. And actually, this election was proof that I believe that that the school district is trying to tamper people coming to vote. Look at the precinct map. No precincts in the entire northern part of our school district. But there were some precincts in the southern part of the city that were a block away from each other. Ridiculous. We all know what kind of income levels live in certain districts. We know that the lower income levels and middle income levels live up in the northern district. Some of the higher income levels live in the southern district. Another issue I have is, well, besides the precincts, I'll give you the same spiel I gave to the city council last week. I can't fathom why the school district, Lincoln County, Minnehaha County, and the city council can't get together, have a 5-year plan that every election is going to be held at the same precincts, and you're going to vote at the same precinct, whether that's a county election, a national election, a school board election, or a city election. This is ridiculous. This has been going on for 10 years. I've been following this for 10 years. And nobody wants to talk to each other. Or this person at the school district's mean. This person at the county doesn't want to talk to us. This person at the city refuses to only text message me. They won't call me on the phone. That's inexcusable. As taxpayers, we expect good, fair elections. We pay for them. And this whole squabbling because we can't communicate with each other, give me a break. It's really that hard to communicate with county commissioners in Lincoln County and Minnehaha and the city council? I don't think so. I think a lot of you guys are friends. I don't understand it. As for this past election, why weren't the campaign finance reports put online? I asked Bev about that 2 days after they were filed. You know what she told me? She didn't have time. That's inexcusable. There's a reason why we file a campaign finance report before an election, so we know who's spending money. Follow the money. I also believe there should be a cap. This job pays around, what, $5,000 a year? When you have someone raising 4 times the money for a job that pays $5,000 a year, you have to start questioning how these elections are being, who can run for them? I wouldn't be able to run. I can't compete with that. And obviously the other 3 candidates couldn't either. As Melanie said, it's important. Elections are important. It's part of our foundation of our democracy, and something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I want to remind you, maybe no personnel should be brought up during any of your discussion. Thank you. Judy Harrington?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for making this kind of time.
Could you give us your name and your address?
Judy Harrington, I live on the east side. And along with Melanie, I probably could just say what she said. This was the first time I'd ever voted early for school board. First time I'd ever come to ICP. I parked, I didn't see any voting sign. I thought maybe I'm at the wrong door. But I came in, there was no sign in the lobby, and I walked around a little bit and looked at the lady at the information stand, and she said, "Oh, it's right over there," where I went, and it was locked. I was pretty surprised. After 5 minutes, a woman came in from the back door of that room with what was left of her lunch and sat down, took my ID, etc. There weren't any signs, and I'm sure, I talked to someone that voted on election day here, and they said it was well signed. There were multiple staff members doing it, and it looked like it went pretty well. I also have always seen more than one person staffing a election table, and I think there are good reasons for that from a safety standpoint. But I was pretty surprised. I don't know what's wrong with the voters. 3.6% to vote on something that I think it's estimated 70% of the taxes we pay are school district taxes, and 3.6 come out. There's something wrong that maybe this consolidated voting would be better, but there's something wrong with that. Lastly, I would just say I'm really congratulate the district for working on bilingual education the way that you do. I think it's forward-thinking and very important. And I think we need to spend time on, it's very sad that there are so many below poverty kids in school, and I know that's not up to the school board to solve all that, but it is pretty discouraging. And the fact that we were told recently in the press that there are about 1,000 homeless students who continue to go to school. So I think there's some very sad things and a very good thing in terms of the bilingual education.
Thanks for your comments, Judy. Teresa Staley.
Good evening, Teresa Staley. I'm here today as a concerned citizen and a taxpayer. I live at 1621 South Van Ness Avenue. And I have 4 concerns that I think we need to be working on within our whole community. I think we need to be working on increased transparency. We need to be working on more accountability within any entity dealing with tax dollars. We need to be working at more citizen involvement. And we need to be working to protect the taxpayer, especially now with the economy in the downturn that it is. I've had concerns for some time within our school district about the lack of involvement we have with our citizens when we have an opt-out situation. And I'm not referring to anything specific right now that may be coming down the line on your agenda. But I've watched these smaller communities, and when they have a project, a new high school that they want to build, and I watch them spelling it out for their citizens. This is what the amenities are going to be. We're going to have a gym. We're going to have a fine arts center. It's going to cost this much money. The people know about it. They talk about it. They vote on it. Oftentimes, the vote is no. And then what happens? They repackage the deal, and they collaborate, they talk, they have community discussion, and they have compromise. And they bring it back to the people, and they vote. Sometimes they have to vote a few times. But the end result is a good product for the people. And I don't know where it started happening in Sioux Falls where we don't get a voice anymore. And I was at the tax office a few years ago, and I'm looking, and they're showing me how my property taxes have gone up and up and up. Slowly they're rising. And I'm thinking, wow, we've never had a voice in this. So I don't know if it's a petition drive that's needed or what, but there's a lack of trust when we don't really know what's going on here, and we don't get any voice in approving any building projects in our wonderful community. So I just wanted to say that verbally. Maybe someone will be able to explain to me when we lost that right to participate in opt-outs like they do in these smaller communities. Thank you.
I'd like to just address a little bit of what you stated.
And just a minute, you guys have in city council, they don't allow back and forth?
Typically, we don't, but
Okay.
I feel the need to
Okay.
respond to you. Number one, when you asked the person at the city about your property tax on your house.
It was
did
at the
they-
county,
At the county. Did they break that out to you for what the school district portion of that is, what the city portion of that is, and what the county portion of that is?
We were just looking.
That's a yes or no.
I don't recall that.
Okay. And then, as far as saying that you've lost your right to vote or to have any kind of conversation with us, you haven't. We always follow the law every time we make a decision, and those decisions, as you well remember with the school calendar, can be referred to the voters, and they've done that once in my 10 years on the board. That ability and option is always there.
But but just explain to the listeners why do little towns get to vote on these projects and we don't do that in Sioux Falls? Where did we come to the point where all opt-outs are just decided by the school board and that we have to do a referendum in order to address that? Or is that just something a school board can say to the public, we're going to allow you to vote on this, we think it's important, or we're going to just do it for ourselves? Tell me the history of that.
Well, I've only been here 10 years, so I can't tell you the history on that, Teresa.
What's your question?
When we discontinued letting, why don't we have the same voting on projects that they allow in smaller communities?
Because we'd be at the voting booth every week or the amount of building that goes on in this district is very large.
So who made that
Made our
decision? So is that something a school district can just say, we're not going to allow people, state law doesn't mandate that we
No, we
vote?
develop a budget every year. There's a public hearing on the budget, and we vote on the budget.
So the school board in our Sioux Falls
And
School Board.
and the citizens elect the school board, and there's 5 of us to make that decision.
Right, but you could make a decision to say, we're going to start allowing citizens to vote like on a new high school. You could say that.
I think if there was a significant building that was going to go on and required a bond issue or something like that, of course we would vote.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Therese. Okay, moving on. I need an approval of the agenda, please.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Kent?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Good news report.
Gotta get all my props ready here. There we go. Well, tonight I have the honor of telling you about a new program that is coming to Sioux Falls, and it's impacting our most needy families and children. To provide a little bit of context, I'd ask that you remember that during the school year through Feeding South Dakota, 3,400 students in the Sioux Falls School District receive a backpack of food to take home on Friday to help their family get through the weekend. On June 1st of this year, our friends at Feeding South Dakota announced that they would be increasing the amount of backpacks they give through the summer months by 500, thanks to a generous donation from Celebrate Church. Further, those food bags would be distributed in the high needs areas of Sioux Falls with the use of a mobile delivery truck for the first time. On June 5th, our free summer meal feeding sites began operation in many of our schools, and that will continue throughout the summer. Many, many great partners are coming together to do their part to end childhood hunger in Sioux Falls, and that brings us to tonight's good news report. About 3 months ago, Feeding South Dakota and our friends there gave us a heads up that a new program would be coming to Sioux Falls thanks to Arby's Restaurants. The Arby's Foundation is a very visible player in food support programs throughout the nation. Nationwide, the Schools Out, Foods In program helps vulnerable children transition from the free and reduced price meals during the school year to 10 no-cost summer meals per child. So we were obviously overjoyed when we heard that the Arby's Foundation and local franchisee Joe James would be providing 2,600 cards to be dispersed among Sioux Falls students this year. Each card, which you see on the screen here, has 10 free meals for kids. Those free meals include a slider-sized sandwich, apple juice, and milk. And that was one of the first questions I asked, hoping that they would follow nutritional guidelines and making sure that our children get nutritional meals throughout throughout the summer. And happy to say that they are as concerned about food insecurity as we are for our children. So students are getting that nutritional meal when they might not be able to make it to a free feeding site. So Joe is incredibly humble. He agreed to come here today to allow us to thank him for 2,600 of these cards times 10. That's 26,000 meals that students in Sioux Falls can access. Now, we looked at his Arby's restaurants and the schools around those locations so that we could be sure to get them into the hands of the students who could access a restaurant and have not have any transportation issues and that type of thing. So we are happy to say that every student in 5 of our elementary schools with high needs were given one of these cards to access whenever they need to. So Joe, as I said, is a humble man. I asked him if he wants to say anything. I'll let you maybe ask him some questions. Maybe he'll speak then. But we wanted to just show our appreciation tonight and just give him a thank you for bringing this program to Sioux Falls. It's not something he needed to do, but Arby's in Sioux Falls has been fantastic with supporting Feeding South Dakota and other food programs. So we are just so grateful to Joe for bringing these tickets to our kids, these passes for these 10 free meals. So thank you very much, Joe. Maybe you want to ask him a question or two.
Just, really, thank you. I mean, summer for a lot of kids is the best time of the year, right? No school, summer break, go to the pool, all this stuff, family vacation. But we know for a large portion of our school district, as mentioned before, almost half our kids on free reduced. Summer isn't a great time. It's a vulnerable time for them. There's no childcare. They're not in school, not without those support systems. Meals being a huge one of those. So think about a kid during the school year getting breakfast, lunch at least, and now that's gone for the summer if it wasn't for the school district and Feeding South Dakota and folks like yourself who have a big heart, I'm sure, who feel for these kids. And so it's only through those efforts, the really heroic efforts, that a lot of these kids, to the tune of 26,000 meals, these kids will be fed and less vulnerable over the summer. So it's heartwarming and, like I said, very heroic. And thank you. I don't even have the right words to be able to say what that means to us and to these kids. So thank you.
It's been an easy program for our managers, our staff, our whole crew to get behind. We've been helping Feeding South Dakota backpack program since 2012. When this program came out earlier this spring, when we heard about it, we jumped on board right away with the Arby's Foundation, trying to get our name on the list so we could participate. We've got 4 schools right around our East 10th Street store. That manager there was she was highly excited about it, that she could do something to help out. We got a lot of teachers from Terry Redland and the other schools that come in there and eat every day, and they were happy about it. We're just happy we can give back to our community, so.
Well, we're really grateful for that. I mean, you think about it, 26,000 meals. You're making a pretty good summer for some kids.
Yep.
And we really, really appreciate that.
And we tried to make it as easy as possible. They can bring that card in. All they got to do is show that card. They don't have to be at their parents, or their parents can bring that card in. We give them the meal. I mean, there's no questions asked. I mean, we just want to make it as simple as possible for them to be able to get that food, so.
That makes a difference.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That kind of community support is what, I wouldn't say it makes our job easy at all. It makes our job easier knowing that there are supporters in the community like you that step up for our kids. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you folks for having me.
You bet.
Yep.
Okay, next item, thanks, Deanne, is conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts that need to be brought forward at this time? Hearing none. Move to the approval of a consent agenda. May I please have a motion?
President Volke, I had a request to add to the consent agenda an item to Solid Fence Company, a purchase order to do the repair fencing on 3 school sites. So I would request that for $23,230, I would request that that be part of the consent agenda that we're voting on. So I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of the one item.
Amended.
referenced.
Okay. Is there a second for that? Carly?
Second.
All right, then we'll take a vote. Doug?
Aye, approved.
Todd, aye. Carly?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
And then one abstention?
Yep.
With Ken Alberty.
Yes.
That motion carries. To the supplement consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote on 9A1 first and 2. May I have your vote? Kent?
Aye.
Aye.
And Kate? Or, yeah,
I
Kate?
don't know what it's for. Is it for,
The Sanford Health classroom supplies and Sanford Medical Center in the amount of $42,344 professional services. 9A, 1 and 2. Thank you. Sorry about that. And one abstention with Board Member Ryder. All those in, oh, we voted on that. Now I need a motion for 9B, claims to Avera Education staffing in the amount of $8,520 for professional services.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Kent?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Aye. Carly?
aye.
That carries with an abstention from Board Member Parker. Made it through that. Now to the reports of the superintendent.
We've got 3 reports for you to consider tonight. The first report is a report from the Finance Action Network. As you recall, we began the discussion of an opt-out, a potential opt-out, at our work session on April 5th. Again, on April 10th, at our regular scheduled Board of Education meeting, we had the conversation again of an opt-out. And particularly during the public hearing, the notion of an opt-out was discussed at length at that meeting on April 10th. One of the things that was discussed that night was the putting together of a committee to provide the board feedback on the various budgeting scenarios, especially what an opt-out would look like. What we have for your information tonight is a report from that group, and I'd ask Bob Timian, as a member of that group, to please come forward and summarize what that group has come up with.
First of all, I have to say thank you for your willingness to have an outside group come in and look at your budget, and your process, your assumptions. We've done this, the Finance Action Network has done this, I think, 2 or 3 times before. And again, it's pretty unique that the school district would be so willing to do this. Over the years, we had developed some frameworks that we would see as to doing it in, when I say we, Sarah Andrews from Breckenhofer, Jason Ball from the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, and we have Keith Severson from Ide Bailey, and Becky Whitrock from Geotech. Here it was the 5 of us that were on the committee. And these are all people experienced in looking at budgets, finances, and spreadsheets, and how all these things work. In looking through that, the first concern we had is that as we looked at how the model worked, is the erosion of the fund balance. When we have done this before, the goal was to, at the end of 5 years, to be at an 8.3% fund balance. That would be a sufficient amount of cash to take the district from year end to the next real estate tax payments. And so that's the need for the 8.3%. What we saw was an erosion of that balance, that has been spent down. And as we looked at the revenue coming in for this next year, there were some concerns. We looked at expenses as to how that would be. And this is a budget that does not have program expansion. It is program continuation in the items that were there. But as we look at this, some items. A big item is thinking we know what it looks like what the state funding for education will be at the 0.3%, but also when we look at the federal levels and some of the revenue uncertainties that are there. With the deterioration of the cash balance, projected to be at 6.3 versus the 8.5, and as we look at 5 years going forward as to how that would happen, the budget is based on the 0.3% increase from the state. It's not adequate to retain the excellent teachers or ensure the high-quality curriculum and programming. As a business community, we look at this, and maintaining the program at the same quality would be the assumption, the goal as to what is there. But with the declining fund balance, the need for an opt-out is apparent. That, and our recommendation was that it be a $5 million opt-out for 10 years. The beauty of an opt-out is it gives the board flexibility to spend that. It does not mean that it has to be used, but it is available. We thought that was a good way to go, and so the recommendation from ours was for the $5 million opt-out for 10 years would be there. And Becky or Keith, any comments? Any questions?
No, thank you for your participation and your wisdom and being a second set of eyes for the board and for Dr. Maher and Business Manager Veek. It's very important that we are, as was talked about before, transparent. And
the other item, though, that I didn't mention that I need to mention is for the school district to assume a 0.75% efficiency, that's going to be found somewhere, is a pretty amazing item when that has been going on year after year. So it's not just maintaining, but that finding 0.75% efficiency, that's good. So.
Thank you.
I appreciate your guys' willingness to help. That's awesome. And like Ed said, it's great to have another set of eyes look at it and support what we think is necessary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, I have two people that are wanting to address the issue. Therese Staley.
Smile. Teresa Staley, 1621 South Van Ness again, up here. With all respect to the people who have been doing this, I wish you would have had some citizens, some people on fixed incomes give some input into this. We have retired people. My understanding is this is not going to, you're saying it's not going to affect our property taxes, but we're not going to be seeing the property tax relief that we could have been because of this opt-out. I don't know that the voters and the citizens, if they're realizing that we're doing this so that we can create some kind of a savings account, would say that would be a good reason to be doing any kind of opt-out action. I think many of us in our town are having to live within our means. And my perception of the school district, and I've been following this for many years, is that we have had great prosperity here. We've been able to build lots of buildings. I think we're working at having an excellent staff. I've always tried to say we need to pay our substitutes more. I rallied for that, to treat them more fairly, and our superintendent, I think you've kind of lended an ear to that. I appreciate it. But we need to live within our means here. And people are really having a hard time making ends meet. Maybe not in your neighborhoods, but in different parts of our community, they are. So we need to keep affordable living in mind here. So I'm going to say that I'm going to challenge you to, if this opt-out is so important, let this go to a public vote. We just talked about this. Let the citizens weigh in on this. If nothing else, just give us a little more time to communicate, because my understanding is, I just found out about this today. A senior citizen called me, and it showed up in the Argus Leader, and I don't think our constituency is even aware that this is happening. So it may be a small amount, maybe it's going to be painless for the time being, but the long view of this is that we need to be showing everyone that we are working on transparency, we're working at accountability, and we're realizing that with the shrinking revenue source, we're going to be making adjustments. Show us what the adjustments are. So I would say let this go to a vote no on this, defer it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mary Bicey?
Good evening, Superintendent Maher, President Toki, members of the board. My name is Mary Bicey. I live at 7625 West Virginia here in Sioux Falls. No, I don't have children in the district, but I do have grandchildren in the district. I did want to address this tonight, and I kind of want to say a little bit of the same of what Teresa's saying. You know, last November, South Dakotans voted overwhelmingly that they wanted more transparency at all levels of government and every public board. It's one of the reasons why today you all had to say what possible conflicts of interest you would have. I would ask that you be, you know, I realize that this report, the date on it is May 25th. That's really not a lot of time for it to be out there for the public to have a full conversation about this. I realize this little sheet that you handed out, or I must have left it over there, that you handed out before we sat down said, it's not really an increase, but it is, because we were going to have a decrease. And if the decrease would have happened as it was supposed to, this would be an increase. And there may be those who were counting on that decrease. I guess 2020 hindsight, I wish that this would have gone to a vote last week with the board election. I bet you your voter turnout would have been a lot higher than it was. I realize you didn't have the report yet, but I'm just in time for the election, but I'm just saying. The case was laid out. I understand that legally you can vote for this opt-out today. Today I'm asking you to do the right thing and be open and transparent and give this a little more time and talk with the taxpayers of Sioux Falls. And please just don't take the property tax relief due to taxpayers. Please let them decide if they want to give it to you. Please take your case to them. I'm asking you to be open and transparent with our districts. Please vote no on this tonight. Please send it to a vote of the people who you're asking to pay for this choice. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I think I'd like to discuss, so let me ask for a motion. Hearing none, let's discuss it. Right?
Well, I mean, I'll speak up and say this was really, again, going back to previous work sessions and previous board meetings. When we discuss this, we try to develop the budget in context of not only the current year, but in the context of a 5-year plan. Because any action we take in the current year has repercussions to every budget down the road. And so, again, when we looked out at the 5-year plan, the fund balance is getting dangerously low to the point where, much below what was recommended by our community leaders in our finance action plan. And so, and looking at the insecurities around revenue, again, we got the 0.3 from the state this year, but we all know medical inflation's going up 9 or 10% and other bills, and 0.3 doesn't cover that. So it just keeps eroding into the fund balance. So what precipitated this whole discussion was trying to put a plan in place that the board could react to in case it came into a financial situation where it needed to raise revenues either because the funding from the state decreased or kept at the same rate that it's going. We've seen things at the federal funding level going, very uncertain. And we have some local revenues that are very uncertain. So it's a very fragile 5-year plan. We don't want to be sitting here cutting programs, cutting teacher pay. We know our challenges in the school system are greater now than ever with some of the challenges we have around whether it was discussed before about, increased poverty, behavioral issues, just things of that nature. So what this action is really to put a safety net in place. This action that we propose to take does not change anybody's property tax. This budget for next year has already been approved. The mill levy is forecasted to go down by 30 cents. This merely puts a mechanism in place that, again, if we had something further deteriorate on the revenue side, that we could react to it, and we wouldn't be sitting here figuring out what to do. We would have a plan in place to be able to keep the same level of education. Through the budget process, every year is unique. Every year is unique with regards to federal revenues, the revenues from the state, everything changes, and so we have to put that in context. So what happens is there's a budget put together every year. There's discussed many times. It starts in November with hundreds of people and citizens across the district putting it together. There's work sessions on it. It's preliminarily approved, and it's finally adopted in July, as it will be this July. There's a public input session on it. So there's great transparency around the budget. All the budgets are posted online, and we get very few questions. I think citizens rely on the school board members that they elect to make those decisions around the budget. We have a good track record of keeping our property taxes down, and we also have to react to everything that's going on around our educational needs. So again, this action is to give us the capacity to opt out. It might be for nothing, it might be for $1 million, it might be for $2 million, it might be $5 million. It depends what the needs are. Every year is unique. So this action in itself does not increase somebody's property tax. And so I think there's some misconception about that. And apparently we haven't been and as transparent, at least to a couple, 3 people that feel that way. So I don't know if you want to delay the vote, President Tolke.
I feel like we've been transparent, but again, it's important for everyone to feel like they understand what's going on. It's been out there since April 5th, I believe. We talked about it at a work session. And I mean, I can't shove information at each individual, trying to be as transparent as possible. But if we delay this 2 weeks, I feel like that's as being as transparent as we can be. So I guess I'd like to look at delaying it 2 weeks. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, that doesn't cost us any heartburn in terms of putting together the budget. I guess I would echo, not being a board member, I would echo what you have said. I think it's easy for us to feel like we've been transparent, and I think we have been. It would sure be nice if you think we have been too, and maybe by delaying it, maybe that gives our community an opportunity to weigh in or to ask more questions at this point. But in either event, from an office perspective and putting the budget together, whether you vote on it tonight or in 2 weeks, either way does not create a hardship for us.
Carly and Kate, have you heard that, and do you have any comments?
This is Carly. I first just want to apologize for not being able to be present tonight, but I appreciate being able to participate in the conversation. I just wanted to address the comment about us being able to build buildings and have nice things in the district, and I just want to make sure that people understand that we do that out of need, not just because we have money. I feel on the time that I've been on the board, which has been about 4 years, we've been very responsible with the funds that we've had, And when we have built buildings, it was out of necessity. And in fact, when those buildings open, many times they're open at 75, 80% full already because there was a need. And so as we look at our strategic plan and as we look at our enrollment numbers and how they're growing, I think that it's important that we continue to remain proactive and not reactive as a board, make sure that we're setting ourselves up to be successful in the future. And this is an option that we have available to us, that we take it up now and set ourselves up to be successful in the future, which I think is important.
Okay, Kate?
I think that we've been talking about this since you mentioned the April work session. I'm fine with voting on it tonight.
Well, I'm going to ask for a motion to delay the vote for 2 weeks.
So move.
Is there a second? Hearing none, it dies for lack of second. I'm going to ask for a motion that the governing board of the Sioux Falls District 49-5 does state that the above said board is able to operate under the limitation measure currently in the statute. We therefore opt out of such tax limitation in the amount of $5 million, starting with the calendar year of 2017 taxes payable in the calendar year of 2018. This opt-out will be for 10 years, which will be through taxes payable in the calendar year through 2027. This action has been taken by the board and approved by at least 2/3 vote of the board. This decision may be referred to a vote by the people upon a petition signed by at least 5% of the registered voters in the district and filed with the governing body within 20 days of the first publication of the decision. Unless this action is referred to a vote of the people and reversed by such vote, this resolution authorizes the county auditors to spread the excess key levy to raise tax dollars in the above stated amount. May I have a motion?
I guess,
This is
President.
Kate, so moved.
Carly, second.
Okay. I guess before I vote, I guess I want to know, rather than just put it off 2 weeks, what are we expecting to happen in 2 weeks? I guess is the point. So if we're putting it off because we feel like there's some education or transparency that needs to take place, then fine, let's have a couple public input sessions or something down here at IPC where we can walk people through and answer their questions, because otherwise I just feel like we're kicking the can down the road. I know that there's always going to be some people against anything that we vote on, right? It's just the nature of it. You can never please 100%. I think we've done our due diligence and I know where I stand, but if rather than just put it off 2 weeks or a month or whatever, I would ask that if we want to have some public input sessions on the topic or a public input session, I'm all for that, because otherwise I don't know what we would be accomplishing.
Right, good point.
So, we've done that with other things, whether it's school closings or whatever. So, I don't know if you feel that's an option, so people feel that they've been heard, or, I don't know. I guess every board member's got to be, when they vote, has to have a comfort level that that they understand what's in front of them and that they feel they've had adequate time to hear from their constituency, so to speak.
Any further discussion?
Feels about that.
Hearing none, I guess we'll vote. Start with Kate.
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Kent?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, move forward to the next.
The next report tonight is a report regarding the English language proficiency in the WIDA Access Update Report. And with us is Demi Moon to give that report.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening to share with you an update on our English language proficiency in the district, most specifically our results on the Access for ELLs 2.0 assessment that is given annually in our district. Before I share with you those results tonight, I'd like to set the stage a little bit to sort of explain to you what our district looks like in terms of our ELL population. This year, during 2016-17, when we participated in the assessment, there were 2,154 students identified as ELL. Of those, 2,103 students took the regular assessment, 51 took the alternate assessment, 146 of those students were first-year in the country refugees, and 133 of those students were first-year in the country immigrants. Just a reminder that refugees are people who move to America seeking a better place to live. It's also often referred to as seeking greener grass because the grass is burning beneath them, whereas immigrants are seeking a different place to live because it is their choice, whereas refugees are being forced out of the country and often not allowed back. At the end of the school year, there were 2,178 students identified as ELL on the last day of school. That means that we had a net increase of 24 students. That doesn't mean we just had 24 new ones. We could have had more than that. That's just the net difference between when the assessment was given and the end of the school year. The access assessment that I'm going to talk to you about tonight comes to us from the World Class Instructional Design and Assessment, otherwise known as the WIDA Consortium. On the screen, you can see a map of the United States, and you can identify in dark blue which of those states are the 39 member states of the consortium, South Dakota being one of them. The consortium exists in order to advance academic language development for students. That is their primary goal. One of the advantages of being a consortium member is it helps us as a state of South Dakota and as the Sioux Falls School District reach federal compliance to measure language proficiency. What exactly is the Access for ELLs 2.0? It is an annual assessment produced by WIDA. It addresses 4 different language domains that our ELL students are working on in terms of academic language proficiency. Those are reading, speaking, listening, and writing. All students participate if they are identified as ELL, if they are in grades K through 12. The testing window takes place annually from the last week in January through the month of February. The results of this assessment allow us to identify students' level of support that they need in the classroom. It helps us determine when a student can exit the program, when their academic language is sufficient enough to exit our program. And it also helps us as a district evaluate the effectiveness of our English as a second language programming. There were some changes that took place in 2016-17 from WIDA. WIDA participated in what is called a standard resetting process, and what that means is they took their standards for their current assessment, for their prior assessment, and they aligned that to the new academic content standards, and as a result, higher language skills are now needed to reach the same level of proficiency as there was on prior versions of the assessment. When taking a look at the access and how it is scored, there are 5 grade clusters, and each of those 5 grade clusters have 3 different tiers of proficiency within each cluster. You can see the different breakdowns of grades K through 12 and where those clusters exist. Scores in each domain, scores come to the students in each domain, so that reading, that writing, that speaking, that listening, and the students also receive a composite score. The scores come in 3 different versions. The students get a raw score, which is their basic number correct on the assessment. They get a scale score. That's a converted score that allows school districts, teachers, and students to compare across different tiers and to compare from grade level to grade level. It is ultimately what allows students and school personnel to decide if growth has been made from year to year. Then finally, those scale scores are converted into grade level specific interpretive scores called proficiency levels. Those proficiency levels range anywhere from a 1.0 to a 6.0. So anything from 1.0 to 1.9 is considered to be at the entering level, 2 being the beginning, 3 developing, 4 expanding, 5 bridging, and 6 reaching. And those proficiency levels further explain to us where students are at in need of support in the classroom. Our specific results for the Sioux Falls School District in the spring, late January through February of 2017 are as follows. And these are for all of our students, no matter what grade they are, and this is in their scale score means. Again, scale scores are what are recommended to be used when monitoring growth or multi-year comparisons. So if you take a look in the first column, that is the 2017 mean scale scores, and in 2016 are the mean scale scores in the areas of reading, listening, writing, speaking, and then the composite score. The final column is the difference between 2017 and 2016. You'll notice that in 4 of the 5 areas, there is a decrease in the mean. That is a direct result of what WIDA cautioned us and advised us would happen when those standards were reset for this year. This is the first year of taking the assessment with the standard resetting. You can also see that even with the standard resetting, we made growth in the area of listening. And so that is our students are to be commended on their growth in spite of the standard resetting in that area. Whilst all of the means are somewhat comparable, you'll notice that there's a drastic decrease in the speaking. That is also advised to us from WIDA directly as a result of the speaking scores no longer being scored at the district level and then those scores being sent into the consortium. Students now record their speaking assessment online, and then that is all scored at the WIDA consortium. So those variances in scores are mainly due to the fact that we don't score them locally anymore. They're scored by one set of individuals at the WIDA consortium level. Taking a look at that same data graphically, blue is this year, orange is 2016 results. Again, you can see in the reading and the listening, we are pretty close, if not exceeding last year's results. And then you can also see graphically the drop in the speaking scores. However, for our students who have 2 data points, so our students who were here in the Sioux Falls School District and took the WIDA assessment last year and were here also this year, so they are able to measure their growth, you can see the individual students' mean growth scale scores in the graph on the screen at this time. Again, you can see the decrease in speaking, but the mean for all other areas is a positive result, which means our students on their scale scores, if they had a data point last year and a data point this year, did show growth from last year to this year. What are the district implications of this data and of these results specifically? Fewer students will exit the program this year. Currently, the exit criteria set forth by the state of South Dakota is that students must have a composite performance level of 4.7 or higher. However, they also must have a 4.1 or higher in reading and a 4.1 in writing and a 4.5 or higher in reading. So they must meet those 2 sub-scores and have a composite of 4.7 to exit. Based on those criteria and the fact that scale scores, when converted into performance levels, will have dropped for a considerable amount of our students this year, we will have fewer students exit our program and remain receiving services within the school district in the 2017-18 school year. The other implication is that there's an increased, obviously, number of students needing service, keeping in mind that the state calculates a per student allocation using a 1.25 factor for each student who currently has a performance level of 4.0 and below. We can expect that there will be more students that will receive that 1.25 per student allocation. In addition to the changes that took place at the WIDA level for 2016, there are also changes coming at the state level for what those results mean to the state of South Dakota as we transition from No Child Left Behind to the Every Student Succeeds Act coming up in the 17-18 school year. Whereas prior students needed a 4.7 and they had sub-score requirements to exit the program, the state is moving that exit criteria to a composite score of 5.0. Also, schools and district report cards will require access for ELL 2.0 results to be 10% of the school performance index final score. So when schools receive their school report card and districts receive their state report card results, moving forward, so for the 2017-18 year reported in the fall of 2018, these results will be part of that school performance index moving forward, where they have not been in the past. It's a lot of information, but I will answer questions if you have them.
Any questions?
No, thank you for linking the technical piece to the operational piece because, again, going back to, obviously, as you said, more kids are going to stay in the program, which is going to be more resources from the district standpoint.
Correct.
We'll get some back from the state, but certainly not enough what it costs us to fund those positions or whatever. So it's another challenge for the district. So that's kind of the implication as I see it, so.
Knowing that we're just a few years into that 1.25 factor of funding and talking to some of the other school districts that are highly impacted by larger quantities or larger numbers of ELL students in their district, I know it is the hope that the state will revisit that entry level or that ceiling level of a 4.0 to receive that additional funding. Whether or not that will happen will remain to be seen, but I know that the other districts that are implicated by this also are hoping that as the exit criteria increases, so too might be the performance level in which the state funds that extra allocation.
Does the WIDA consortium, if you will, I know we compare ourselves a lot in many things to the state, but we have this consortium of all these states that are in there. Do we get to see their data at times by, just curious if we can see where we're at, not only versus the state, but versus nationally?
That's an excellent question. I will have to do some looking into that to see what amount of data is published and exactly where we
Seems like
fall,
there'd be
to see if there's some norm data.
something out there because we become sort of an outlier to the rest of the state, certainly in this group, except maybe Huron. It's very much, we're kind of an island almost, if you will, in South Dakota. And so it would be interesting somewhere down the road to see how we performed against those other, is it 39 states? The
Yes,
other
38
consortium,
other states,
just
yes.
to see, how we're doing. So might be something to look at. So hopefully they make it available.
Yes.
We go to the, be part of something bigger. Hopefully we can glean something from that and put back into our practices across the district to hopefully see what works and what doesn't work or what may be working for other districts or states that are seeing much, maybe more growth than what our state is. So just some food for thought.
That is one of the nice things about the consortium. In addition to producing the access, the assessment, they do provide a great deal of instructional resources, professional development opportunities for us to send teachers to or to send administrators to help increase our programming to match the results of those assessments so we can provide better programming for our students and help them reach those exit criteria in a timely manner.
Because we even see that in our school performance report cards for everything. It's like we see us versus the state, but the state has access to all that national data, almost 750,000 kids in each grade. I wish they would post that in our scorecards just to see nationally another set of benchmarks how we do, because it would just be interesting since we're part of that to be able to reap the benefits of some of that. So, but great report.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, I need a motion to acknowledge the update on the English language proficiency report.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Kent?
Aye.
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Demi.
Our next report is a report of the district technology update. that this report comes to us at the end of the first year of Michael Christofferson being involved with our Instructional Technology Services program.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on a few of the district's annual technology objectives. This past year, we have utilized the Future Ready Schools Guide created by the Office of Educational Technology in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Education to help guide our decision-making process for implementation of our technology infrastructure to support our comprehensive educational technology plan. This evening's report will focus more directly on the equipment and the infrastructure that takes place behind the scenes, but I can't help but recognize the quality Sioux Falls School District educators and staff that integrate technology-supported learning across the district. They are the ones that engage students with creative multimedia projects, allow digitally enhanced collaboration, and provide a 21st century learning environment. As part of the one-to-one Chromebook implementation, the Technology Planning Committee acknowledged the need for infrastructure planning, reliability, and security to support the increasing use of web-based 21st century learning environments. In response to this need and the cloud-based nature of our Chromebooks, the district has upgraded the network infrastructure and increased broadband access in the past year. The federal E-rate program has already provided over $1 million as part of the project. The state of South Dakota, in conjunction with the Bureau of Information and Technology, also increased broadband rates to the district this year. Across the district, the following upgrades have been implemented since July 1st. We have doubled our internet capacity from 2.5 gigabytes to 5 gig district-wide. We've doubled the bandwidth for middle and high schools to the main data center. In the high schools, that's going from 1 gig to 2 gigabytes and from 500 megabytes to 1 gigabyte at the middle schools. We've increased bandwidth at all elementary schools to the main data center, going to 1 gigabyte from those locations. Increased the number of access points from 1,000 to 1,800 district-wide. Installed new cabling for all access points in effort to maximize their throughput. We have replaced 300 switches. And on a side note, we finished that project on February 1st of this year, and I got a call from the Cisco Meraki team February 2nd, letting us know we get to replace those all again in next summer. There's a recall on those switches, so we'll get new hardware again at no cost. That's looking at it positive, I guess. We also installed UPS or battery backup gear in light of a brownout or to help with some power surge issues, being able to do that. We reconfigured new district switches to handle what's called address resolution protocol. And the best way I can explain this is kind of the talk that happens on the network. So once we've got all this new equipment, we overwhelmed the main states router. And since we had new equipment at the locations, we took that and put that on the local devices at each location. Reliability, integrity, and efficiency has improved based on support ticket volume we received and some anecdotal evidence. Prior to all upgrades, we would receive on average 4 to 8 reports per day of inconsistent connectivity, internet outage, or drop connections. As the upgrades were completed, we have had a notice of quite a bit of a decrease, fewer than 1 per day on average in the number of connectivity-related reports. Prior to all upgrades, the district would typically utilize 60 to 75% of all bandwidth on a daily basis. And think about how many hours we were out of session of a 24-hour basis. Since the upgrades we have completed, the district utilizes about 30 to 35% on a 24-hour basis. Staff and students are provided network connectivity reporting tools, which I'm going to quickly pull up here. This allows an opportunity for the end user to help us help them. It really gives them a nice picture of where they're at, because there can be a lot of issues that happen with network connectivity, a problem besides just the wireless issue. But this gives them a quick explanation of what their speeds are. They can see a signal strength and know that their wireless is strong. We can do a speed test that the end user can provide us to make sure that they've got plenty of throughput. They can easily take a screenshot and submit that now in our support ticket system for a nice graphical interface with us to be able to problem shoot that if it is a problem. With the increase in network performance, we have successfully implemented web-enabled meetings as a pilot for Skype for Business, which went very well, online assessments, and cloud-based curricular content. Cybersecurity is a critical component to maintaining integrity and performance in a local and wide area network. The district technology staff works in conjunction with the Bureau of Information and Technology to provide best practice security measures. We utilize content filters, logical network dividing, and best practice policy to maintain data integrity and digital citizenship. This year, we also partnered with the Department of Homeland Security to be part of their cyber hygiene program. They provided us vulnerability scans and reports, as well as penetration scans, training of end users, especially as it relates to suspicious email or scams, is a critical component of our support and commitment to protect Sioux Falls School District's information security. Next year, the district will be on the final year of its current 3-year technology plan, yet we'll continue to develop the next technology plan. We'll continue to evaluate current technology practice while adapting new effective technology in a plan that is seamless, sustainable, and flexible while effectively supporting 21st century learning. I would ask the board to acknowledge the report on the district technology update, and I'll stand by for any questions that you might have.
Thanks. Any questions?
No, just thank you to you and your team. You're the unsung heroes. When a board member doesn't hear anything about Michael Christopherson's group, that means everything's good, right? It's when we hear things like, oh, you know, we took the smarter balance tests across the district and machines were up and down and out of band, you know, never hear any of that. So that's a tribute to you. And I know there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. The complexity is, you know, overwhelming, I'm sure, if you had to sit down and look at it. And you guys make all that work behind the scenes and synchronize everything so that at the end of the day, our teachers, our students, it's seamless to them, right? And so, you know, much appreciation to you and the team, because again, nobody hears about you. You guys are doing great, and yet nobody's going to give you a pat on the back except for the one day during the year that we let you come and give your presentation. I was actually hoping you were going to run it from your watch tonight, but yeah, so. No, but great job. I mean, really, in all seriousness, it's you know, where we've come from and where we're going is just, we're making great strides, and yet we know that technology changes every day. The threats to our environment are changing and more sophisticated, and so, and the partnerships that you've developed along the way are so critical to our success. So just more than anything, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. May I have a motion to acknowledge the report on district technology update?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, Kent?
Aye.
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Aye, thanks. That motion carries. Now we're going to move on to the second reading of some district policies. The first one, we're going to just do them all separate. The first one would be policy EFD, the pricing and payment of food services. We got no responses on that. So if I could have a motion to approve the second reading of policy EFD.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, Kent?
Aye.
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
And aye. Policy JHR, the student attendance policy. Mary Bicey?
I know it's late. I know we all want to go home. My name is Mary Bicey, 7625 West Regina Street here in Sioux Falls. Yes, I have 2 grandchildren in the district. Quickly, just want to say, please don't change the policy, because what has happened with this policy change is principals have lost their ability to say, okay, this child, this happened, because you've removed that. And I just want to share from my own experience. Almost 20 years ago now, when my dad died, he died on a Saturday. He was a father figure to my children. When I called the school, they said, well, he only lived at Hartford. The kids don't need a whole week. We had family coming in that my kids hadn't seen in a long time, some family they'd never met. And he was truly a father figure to my children at that point in time. That same year, I had one who was stuck in an airplane in Dallas because she couldn't make it back from a missions trip that she got, that she went on over Christmas vacation. So she missed a day there. That would have only left us 4 days. And there would have been people knocking at my door. I want my children to go to school. The vast, vast majority of parents in the district want their children to be there, and they want their children to do well, and we tell our children to go to school and listen to your teachers and do what you're told. I ask you not to pass this policy where there's one size fits all, because life just isn't always that way. Thank you.
Thank you. I did get one email from someone that had some concerns with having to have a doctor's note and spending money on a doctor's visit. And I don't think there's anything that we do that forces the child's ill. We're not going to force anyone to go get a doctor's note. Just to come
For 10 days.
till after 10 days. After 10 days, then that will be the case. You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? Aye. Vote. Kent?
Aye.
Doug? Kate?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Todd? Aye. That motion carries. The last policy is JJHR, student travel. May I have a motion? We had no comments regarding this change.
So moved.
Second.
Vote. Kent?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Aye, and that carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attached in your board packet, you will find the results of the election held on Tuesday, June 6th, 2017. The vote totals are slightly different from what was reported on election night because there were provisional ballots cast on election day. The provisional ballots were investigated on June 8th, and one was found to be valid. The totals were therefore adjusted by that one result. I'm going to put on the screen. Well, I was going to put on the screen. The results of the vote, I can, if you can flip it over to, if we can get it on this, I can just, I've got the piece of paper here. I'm going to do faster. All that technology they use, I do things the old-fashioned way. Because we counted by hand, we have to acknowledge the vote by each vote center, and you can see those there in front of you by vote center. So you have a motion in front of you to acknowledge the reading of the totals by vote center, and then acknowledge the canvass of the results of the school board race of the Sioux Falls School District annual election held on June 6, 2017, for 1 3-year term for office of member of the school board, with the results as follows. Demetrios Gliarmas had 108 votes. Randy Dobberpool had 1,811. Cynthia H. Mickelson had 2,278 votes. Carol L. Robinson had 139 votes. And I'd ask you to declare Cynthia H. Mickelson as a duly elected member of the school board for for a term of 3 years, commencing with the annual meeting to be held on July 10th, 2017. I'm going to issue Mrs. Mickelson a certificate of election as soon as you...
That when we have a motion, so can I have a second?
Second?
Correct?
I can't make the motion.
Okay, need to,
Oh.
sorry.
Moved.
Second.
All right. Having a motion and a second, I need, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Well, I'm just going to take the opportunity, because I felt, some things were set up there before that were, I think, inappropriate. Certainly, this board did not stack the attendance centers so that it would receive a vote one way or the other. That's, a indictment on our integrity, and I'm offended by that. Frankly, I see schools like Whittier and McGovern on here, which are on the northern end of the town or central to the district. We try to make it cost effective. We had the absentee voting center open for a month. Maybe there were periods of 5 minutes or 10 minutes when, somebody was on break or at lunch that we had to get somebody. But everyone worked hard to get this election done and to be good stewards of the money that were given. And I think we had good representation across the city at our voting centers. There may have been a few, again, nuances that there always are, but I appreciate, everyone that was involved here in the district that worked on it hard, and a lot of time and effort went into it. And so I just want to say that I was greatly offended by some of the comments that were made earlier, not only directed to this board, but to other employees of this district. So I just want to take the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. All right, let's take the vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Kent?
Aye.
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Carly?
Aye.
Aye. And that carries. Congratulations.
I'm going to present Mrs. Mickelson with a certificate of election. Thank you.
With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion granted. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, Carly and Kate.